Struggling engine manufacturer Honda is on the verge of getting a $19 million cash boost for upgrades, and it's all thanks to rivals having rallied around and agreed to help. Yes, Formula One may be a cutthroat business at times, with teams rarely wanting to do anything that will help the opposition out, but in Honda's case, things are different. The scale of its struggles with Aston Martin, which has left it battling major reliability problems and fighting towards the back of the 2026 grid, were deemed alarming enough for F1 and other manufacturers to step in. This was because of the risks they felt of Honda potentially calling it quits and turning its back on F1 if it could not sort things out. The exit of a big car maker like Honda would have been of no help to anybody in Grand Prix racing. So following weeks of discussions between F1's power unit manufacturers, support was given to change the rules in a way that would help Honda fast-track its recovery. So what's been done, and how much will it change things? F1's rules for 2026 have always had a catch-up mechanism within them that allows manufacturers on the back foot to have the means to recover. This was important because, unlike in previous eras, car makers not only have to operate within a cost cap environment where there's a spending limit, but they're heavily restricted in terms of dyno test bench hours too. The days of unlimited resources to make a better engine are long gone. So that's why an area of the rulebook was created called Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities, which has become known as ADUO. This outlines that any manufacturer deemed to be more than 2% adrift of the benchmark will be allowed one additional upgrade opportunity in the current season and another the following year. A car maker that's more than 4% adrift is allowed 2 upgrade chances for the current campaign and then 2 more the following. But there is little point in being allowed to bring an improved engine if you aren't allowed to do extra work on it. So the best gain from getting granted development assistance comes from the extra spending power and development hours allowed on test benches, and this is where Honda has been given an extra leg up. In terms of development, manufacturers given ADUO are granted extra test bench hours. This covers the running of power unit dynos, power train dynos, and full car dynos for any time that an engine speed exceeds 7,500 RPM. A sliding scale was enforced that granted more hours for those that fell into the ADUO window, with them counting cumulatively across the various periods. For a team that was deemed to be between 2 and 4% behind, they would get 70 hours. It then ramped up to 110 hours for those 4 to 6% behind, 150 hours for anyone 6 to 8% adrift, and then there was a previous cap of an extra 190 hours for anyone more than 8% off. To help Honda, this ceiling has been lifted. It means that if a manufacturer is deemed to be more than 10% behind the benchmark, as Honda appears to be, then that would mean an extra 230 hours of test bench running. Added on top of the extra running allowed on test benches is a more important rule that allows a struggling manufacturer to spend more money on development. Just like with the test bench hours, there's a sliding scale in place for extra allowances within the cost cap that power unit manufacturers must run to. Previously, the extra cash on hand had been a $3 million boost for manufacturers who were deemed to be 2 to 4% adrift over the season. It then went all the way up to $8 million for manufacturers that were deemed to be behind by more than 8%. Now, what's been agreed is that anyone over 10% off will get an extra $11 million.
This video is presented by ADUO, the AI CRM for high-growth teams. In motorsport, the team with the best data wins. Every lap, every corner, every pit stop decision comes down to how fast you can read the situation and act on it. Business is no different. The teams running on ADUO aren't the ones working the longest hours. They're the ones moving with laser precision with the right information at the right moment. That's what ADUO is built to give you. Connect your emails, calls, and product data, and ADUO instantly builds your CRM with enriched data and complete context. Then ask ADUO anything. Prep for a meeting in seconds, spot deals at risk before they stall, know your next move before your competition does. Powered by Universal Context, ADUO's intelligence layer, every customer signal is connected and instantly actionable. The race doesn't slow down, neither should your CRM. As a viewer of this video, you can claim a 14-day free trial with ADUO, so now is an excellent time to up your CRM game with no strings attached. Redeem the offer for free at aduo.com/race. Ask more from CRM. Ask ADUO.
And there's a new really interesting rule that's been agreed to help Honda out too, which is a sort of loan worth up to $8 million. Any manufacturer using it won't be borrowing against the bank though, it will be borrowing against its future spending. What's been officially tagged as a performance-based cost relief comes into play if a manufacturer is behind by more than 10% in their first season. It offers a possibility for an extra $8 million of spending over 2 seasons. However, this spending on paper is classified as a relief and has to be paid back. It's done through classifying any money spent now, so reducing the expenditure that is claimed in the year it's used, then again added on to future years. In theory, You are front-loading extra development spending now, rather than having to hold back for future years to be able to fork out then. Rules allow a manufacturer granted this relief the choice of how much extra they want to spend and how it gets split across this season and next. You must then repay 100% of whatever relief you take, although there is a degree of freedom in how that repayment is split. The repayment is spread over 3 seasons after it's been spent, but each of those 3 years must have at least one payment that is somewhere between 20 and 50% of the total amount. The flexibility of how a manufacturer chooses to take it and how they decide to pay it back means there are many options in terms of how aggressive they want to be. They could choose to be balanced and split both the $4 million and the payback over the maximum duration, or they could front load the relief and backload the payback. The rules are explicit that you cannot repay the whole amount in a single year, and no more than 50% is paid back in a season. So they would not be allowed to use 60% one year and then slash things back to 10% the next. Combine the extra development money and the relief loan, and it means if Honda is ruled to be more than 10% off the benchmark engine at the end of their first season, then it could be granted an extra $19 million in total to spend. That should be plenty to allow it to make the necessary improvements to its power unit that can help it get back on track. The changes to help Honda come at the same time as a change relating to when the FIA will rule which manufacturers are qualified for ADUO. Heading into the 26 campaign, this had been expected to be after race 6, which was originally the Miami Grand Prix. However, with the cancellation of the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian races, race 6 has shifted to become the Monaco Grand Prix in June. This was deemed to be too late for the first allowances to be opened up for those manufacturers who are behind, so a one-off change of timing has been made for this season. The first ADUO call, where the FIA will rule which manufacturers' internal combustion engines are more than 2% adrift of the benchmark, will now come after the Canadian GP. The issue of ADUO has become a hot topic among manufacturers, with Mercedes in particular feeling that the rules were intended as a catch-up safety net for anyone falling behind and not a tool to allow someone near the front to make a step that puts them on top. There has also been some controversy over how the FIA will judge the performance of each engine to calculate their power amid complications triggered by outside influences like turbo size and back pressure caused by exhaust wings. This is why the 2% threshold limit and the way of calculating the performance index between manufacturers may well now be adjusted once the first call is made. In terms of the ADUO calls over the remainder of 26, they will now be made after the next race in Canada, after Hungary in July, and after Mexico in November. So if Honda haven't been boosted by the door being opened for a significant chunk of extra help, it could get the green light later this month to start spending some of that extra $19 million bailout.